Hello, gentlemen. My name is Will Gasper, Hospice of Michigan, and welcome to a little recap of our Men Overcoming Loss virtual program that we had last evening at 6 p.m. And I'll say this at the beginning, and I'll say this at the end. Our next Men Overcoming Loss is October 20th at 6 p.m., and I hope you can join us. And that should be on our website for the address, or the contact information for either Wes Lawton, the Grief Support Counselor downstate, or Will Gasper right here in Cadillac. So that should be available. All that information should be available on our website. Okay, so what we had planned last night was to go around the room and check in with folks and check in with the gentlemen that joined us. They were basically five folks that were joined us, and we had some good conversation about how their grief journey was going. And a common theme for those who were early in their grief was the numbness that they were feeling. The kind of the grief brain portion that happens shortly after our loved one dies, very shortly. In fact, it could be, minutes, hours, because after our loved one passes away, whether we're present with them or after we get the news, it just kind of doesn't sink in, and we're numb, kind of our body's way to kind of protect us, similar to a physical injury in a car accident, how people go into shock. We often hear about first responders talk about the victims of a tragic accident, while they're still alive, of course, go into a shock. And that's the body's way to kind of protect us from all of that physical pain. And I believe our numbness is a reaction of that body, the mind, the heart, the soul, of protecting us from all that pain, that grief pain that kind of wants to get in and settle in. And so we're protected by kind of a numbness, kind of a shock type of effect, where it just doesn't seem real. Did I dream this? And, am I going to wake up from this nightmare type of reaction? And folks talk about life, the days, the hours, the days, they seem to be a blur while all the preparations are made for the funeral, the kind of memorial service, the internment, that sort of thing. So that's a pretty common kind of feeling, kind of reaction to what their journey has been. These gentlemen, not all of them, of course, some of them are past that now, but the ones that are early in their grief, 5 weeks to a month or so, that is one of the first kind of reactions to loss that folks have, male or female. And one of the gentlemen whose wife was had a 5-year battle with cancer, finally succumbed to brain cancer as it moved from the liver and through her body up to her brain. And he said that 5 years wasn't long enough to prepare for the loss of his wife. And he didn't have that sense of confidence, the sense of that he had was ready to say goodbye. And how can any of us be ready to say goodbye to a loved one that we've kind of connected to, not kind of, that we did connect to, and shared very, very personal moments in our life, physically or emotionally. We connected with those people, and they were always there. They were kind of our crutch to help us. And of course, we were probably complementary crutch to them as well. So um, keep in mind that as tragic loss as car accidents are, heart attacks, those kind of alive 1 second, dead the next second, that doesn't, obviously, who can be prepared for that? So when folks say, is it better to lose someone just like that, or is it better to have a long time to prepare, to talk about things? Well, you know what, each experience is different, and each experience is unique, so you really can't talk about one being better than the other. Another thing that we talked about last night among the group was acknowledging the loss. And Alan Wolfelt talks about the 6 needs of task, so to speak, of grief. And acknowledging the loss is his first task that we need to take care of and we need to deal with. And it doesn't seem possible that this person was taken away from us, that we'll never see them physically again. But that's the reality. And sometimes it takes about 3 months before that becomes real and we acknowledge it. Ron Greaves, another author that is also one of our Hospice of Michigan volunteers, wrote a book about 20 years ago after his wife passed away, and From Death to Life. And he talked about, for him, it was about 3 months after Patty was interned into the cemetery, and the headstone was put in place with her name on it, date of birth, date of death. And that's when he could say he acknowledged the loss, that it was chiseled, as he wrote a poem, it was called Chiseled in Granite. And I would strongly recommend getting one of Alan Wolfelt's books or Ron Greaves' book, From Death to Life. So it does come recovery and acceptance. It can happen, and it will happen, but it doesn't happen all at once like it did for Ron. That was kind of the moment that it did for him. But I think the grief work that he had done before then, before he saw that headstone, had prepared him in a way to make that little switch around the corner to acknowledge the loss. And he also talked about the fact that recovering from the numbness, recovering from the pain, kind of seeps in. That recovery just kind of oozes in and builds slowly until finally that we can accept it, as we can deal with it. It doesn't come overnight. It doesn't come with a magic pill or a silver bullet. It just kind of happens as we work through our grief. And certainly that's one of the things that Ron also talks about, is do the work. Believe you can heal is his first task of grief work, as well as the second task is to do the work. And so when you are viewing a little video like this, or perhaps meeting with a therapist, counselor, trusted friend or perhaps a pastor who will listen, and it's a safe environment, non-judgmental and encouraging and patience. That's what can bring us back and keep us on that path of working through our grief. And also, number 3, we kind of exposed or related to the group last night. Ron's third task of grief would be to be not afraid. And that is a song that some churches use in their services, especially a funeral service. And I would encourage you to YouTube that, take a listen, and perhaps that will give you some hope. And that's all we really ask for, isn't it? Is that we ask for hope, that we will get through this, that we will be able to come out the other side. It's not going to be the same. No, it can't be. But that we come out on the other side of our grief journey with a new awareness of what normal is going to be like, with perhaps a realization of the skills and the strength that we have learned throughout our journey. And so that's awesome to keep that hope in that front of your mind and in front of your future. Another man talked about 3 months or so after his wife passed away, he started thinking about the good times that him and his wife had over the years. And one special place he recalled that him and his wife enjoyed was out on the East Coast watching the ocean come in. It was like a pier, and watching the waves come in and the tide go out, tide come in. And just to know that life does go on and we can rejoice in those memories. So often we concentrate on the last days, the last months, the last weeks of our loved one's life, if it's a long journey, if it's a long decline in our loved one's life. But to turn the corner and think more about the good times that we've had with that person, with our spouse, with our child, with a parent perhaps, that can help us kind of do that grief work and to not be afraid as we think about how blessed we were to have those folks in our lives for the length of time that we did. Ron, as well as another gentleman that was in the group, talked about how writing has helped them so tremendously in their recovery. And not just scribbling down, something you have to write every day. No. Ron talks about when something's on your heart. It doesn't have to be every day. It can be whenever it's on your heart. To have a journal, a notebook, dated, and then put something down that's in your heart. Seems to be there's something therapeutic about taking pen to paper, putting down something black and white that releases some of those feelings, some of the thinking that may be bothering us. And so I would encourage you, I agree. I've done that myself in several of my grief journeys that I've done on a personal level. And keep in mind that there is no timeline to our grieving journey. So no one should be able to be allowed to tell you to get over it, move on, it's time. A year has been and gone by. Come on, get over it. No. Every person is unique. Every story, every grief journey is unique. And so as you go through your grief journey and you are working and doing the grief work and you're not afraid, it's scary, but you don't have to be afraid because there is support all around us. We just have to take advantage of that. And so just to remind you, as I said in the beginning of this video, that we will be meeting as a group again on August 20th at 6 p.m. And you can go to HOM.org and check out that schedule of virtual groups. There are many other groups that'll be coming up in the very near future. So gentlemen, thanks for checking us out, and take general care of yourselves.